Good evening, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of Kiko's Freethinkers Forum. This is episode 135. We're joined by a repeat guest. This is her third time on the show. Her name is Tracy Carson, and you all probably remember her from 112, episode 112 especially, because we talked a lot about the Cornel West 2024 campaign. Dr. West himself has been on the show, but Tracy is a co-chair within Indiana of the Cornel West 2024 campaign. She's a very active volunteer. She's an activist. She was on my show, episode 5, one of my earliest episodes on this particular forum, Kiko's Freethinkers Forum. And we talked about a Medicare for All march that she doesn't want to take the credit for, but she had a lot to do with organizing that event in Indianapolis, Indiana, with the Medicare for All marches a couple of summers ago. And we have a lot to talk about today. We will probably talk about the Kamala-Trump debate a little bit. We're going to really focus on organizing, like what is the strategy going forward. We can't just be stuck in the moment. We have to think beyond 2024. Electoral politics pertaining to Black people and just what exactly goes into vote shaming and just all these different elements. But I just want to welcome Tracy back onto the show. And thanks again for agreeing to come on and accepting that invitation.
Thank you for having me for not once, not twice, but 3 times. I always enjoy talking to you. So I got a lot to say. I have a whole lot to say. So I'm just ready whenever you are.
I am too. I know you definitely have a lot of great things to say, and we're excited to have you on. And I'm going to definitely shout out your channel, Tracy Carson. Her YouTube channel is going to be the first thing after the episode description with all the keywords and everything is going to be her YouTube channel. I urge all my audience to go over to her channel right away and subscribe to her channel, Tracy Carson. She puts a lot of work into her channel. We have a lot to discuss tonight. And I just want to say that we've really grown a lot since the beginnings of Kiko's Freethinkers Forum. And independent channels can grow, but we have to support each other. And I can honestly say that Tracy and a couple of other channels, Empathic Times with Amira Napier, we all try to support each other, and even grassroots organizations like People's Party of Texas, who I was actually introduced to them through Tracy. And so you never know who you meet through other people. And so we really are on the ground, grassroots, person to person type people. And we're not really into all the allure with the bigger accounts. So I think people need to focus their attention on accounts like ourselves because we do have great interviews, but we only know how much we can grow unless we get a chance to grow. And all we ask is to subscribe for free. We're not asking for any of your money necessarily, just a little bit of support that way. If you want to give us money, we're not going to deny the money, but at the very least, subscribe for free. That's not taking anything out of your time, just expanding your mind. And remember, you can't unthink free thought. I wanted to ask you my first question. Don't want to be just about electoral politics, but I think it's a good starting point. You told me off camera that you hadn't watched the debate, but you had watched some highlights. What was your take from the Kamala-Trump 2024, this second presidential debate, technically since Biden dropped out? What were your takes from that?
We deserve better choices. In a country of 350 million people, this is the best we could do. You had neither candidate, in terms of the clips I watched, and if you don't know, tomorrow I'm actually watching it and giving my reaction because I haven't watched the whole thing through. Neither one of them answered any questions. It was like they were playing the sidestep game. And that's really annoying because Kamala avoided questions about the economy, avoided questions about Trump. Trump went into I don't know what level he was on, where he was at, where his mind was at. He kept talking about immigration when the question wasn't even about immigration. We deserve better than this. These two candidates are the reason why I am voting third party. Because I just can't. They literally make no sense. If you look at something like the situation in Gaza or Congo or Sudan. You have one that says, I'm going to support Israel under no circumstances will I withdraw my support from Israel. Then you have another that says, well, just finish it off. I don't know how people can be okay with this. And I keep pondering and pondering, how can the American electorate be okay with voting for genocide? I can't round my head around it. And you follow me on Facebook. I've gotten a whole lot of kickback, but I said what I said, and I'll stand behind what I say. It doesn't make sense to me. If I'm against the killing of anybody, I'm not going to vote for a candidate that says, yeah, we're going to continue it. This whole conversation could be over with one sentence. We're not giving you any more money until you stop the killing. We want a permanent ceasefire and end occupation. Over. That's not that's maybe a paragraph, probably less than 5 sentences. But they're not going to do it. So that was my first thought. Second thought, and now I got to add humor because that's just me. The only thing that's making me happy about this campaign is that Trump is just thrown off his game. He should have had, even I knew Biden was going to drop out. I mean, everybody could see it coming. You knew he was going to drop out, especially after that first debate. And you didn't prepare? You knew she was going to get, she's not going to get the nomination. Really? You're not prepared. She threw you off of your game. She made you look really silly. I could have won that debate against Trump. If he said exactly the same words and you put me in there, I would have won. So that gives me joy. But then again, until Americans change their mind and change the way they're voting and at minimum demand something for their vote, we can talk about third parties all we want. But it's not going to change until people say, you know what? No, I want Medicare for all for my vote. And if you don't give it to me, I'm going to replace you.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for reparations. That goes for ending genocide, anything. All things are important. But we have to at least get people to the point where they say, I'm demanding this for my vote. And that's what I don't see. And it's really concerning.
I tell you, you said a lot there. And I appreciate you bringing up the Sudan, the Gaza, the Congo situation. I haven't done my Substack yet, but I'm publishing a Substack after this interview is over. And some of the things you brought up are important. The first thing I thought about this debate was exactly what you said is actually going to be the first paragraph or two in my Substack tonight, which is we need more candidates on that debate stage. That was the first thing I thought, the very first thought. I was thinking about the FEC, because technically, if you run for president, you have to file with the Federal Election Commission. Everyone has to file the paperwork to become a candidate. There's so many people running for office. So what could we do next to determine how many people get on this debate stage? We could have, I don't know if star voting would be big enough yet. I know star voting is becoming more implemented in places, and I don't want to ostracize the people who are star voting advocates, but let's just go with ranked choice voting for right now. At the very minimum, we could use the ranked choice voting system, kind of like what they did with the free and equal elections debate with Jasmine Sherman Chase, Oliver, Claudia de la Cruz, Jill Stein, Lawrence Mapstead, and all them. They could at least create some kind of a template to where the public has a choice in the top 20 candidates. Let's do 20 candidates, and then we can shrink those candidates down to maybe 4 or 5 at the end. But these rules have to be put into place. We know right now that the two parties control these visibility rules on television. They control all the media and everything. CNN, ABC, all these people are getting, because I say 20 because You mean to tell me we can sit through 20 Republican and Democrat people in a primary to duke it out? 20 of them on their same side can be on the stage together, but we can't have 20 different people across the board in the entire country that could represent the country as a way to give people more options. They don't want to give people a democratic system. To me, that would be a true democratic process. You give people 20 options, and then you can shrink that down to 5 after whatever polls you want to use to determine how much the public wants to see those people more. But you get 5 viable options. That's way better than what we got now. We got to do something, because what you see like a few nights ago is what you're always going to get. When you have that type of reductionism, the low quality is always going to be there, because when you're competing against one pile of crap, all you have to do is smell a little bit better, put some Febreze on it. You spray the Febreze on the crap, and it seems like it smells better, but it's still crap at the end of the day. And so that's what we have to deal with every single cycle, is the blue poop versus the red poop. That's the best way to put it. That's the way I see it. And I think I pretty much agree with everything you said. Something else that you mentioned too, a permanent ceasefire. I think ceasefire is a very tricky word, because when people say ceasefire, that's almost not suggesting that it's going to ever end. When you say a permanent ceasefire, you said this doesn't need to happen again. And I see people saying ceasefire now, but is the ceasefire going to start back up again? I don't need to see any more war. And so I like the way you're framing that with a permanent ceasefire.
Permanent.
And I believe that you changed even from when we had our very first episode 5. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I want to go back to that for a second. When you first came onto the show, do you think that you've changed at all, even since when you came on that show, episode 5, a few years ago?
I don't think I've changed my stance, because I'm always a love thy neighbor as thyself type of person. That has never changed about me. That makes the Palestinian my neighbor, the person in Congo is my neighbor, the person in Haiti is my neighbor. In that respect, I haven't changed. What has changed about me is I cannot stand the Democratic Party. I cannot, and people will say on my show, when are you going to talk about Republicans? I'm black. I don't have to talk about the Republicans. I feel like they tell me, hey, we don't like you. They tell me exactly what they think of me. Why am I worried about them? My dislike has been because I see what the Democratic Party has done, one, to black men. I don't like it at all. It's just the most disgusting thing. The alienation of black men just makes me sick. How they'll say, oh, black women are the backbone of the Democratic Party, but when it comes time to put policy in place, there's no deliverance of any policies. We're constantly being told now is not the time. There's other issues to take care of. And so that's probably what has changed about me, is I'm just more emphatic. I just want every black person to leave the Democratic Party. That's what I want.
And see, we have a personal connection, and I don't think a lot of people understand this. Liberals are just, I don't know if liberals can even become educated at this point. It's so crazy. I hear so much about like this Trump obsession with Trump. Like people that I work with, it's like all they talk about is Donald Trump. And I'm saying to myself, for someone that you despise a lot, you talk about this person quite a bit to not like this person.
I'll tell you what that's called. It's called Trump derangement syndrome. And it keeps, and I said this when Biden was running, but I guess it applies to Harris too. They hate Trump so much that they refuse to see the evil that Biden and Harris are doing. It's like they can't see it. If Donald Trump were president right now, and he was doing in Gaza what's happening right now, those same people on the Democratic side who whine about democracy but have no problem with no primaries ever being performed, they just accept it. those same people would be out in the streets protesting. There's no doubt about it. They were protesting when children were in cages under Trump, but somehow forgot to do that when children were in cages under Biden. But apparently that's not true anymore. I'm like, of course it's true. There are many groups that are saying children are still being held in cages. But apparently when your guy does it, it's okay. But when the other guy does it, it's a crime against humanity. How about this? It's a crime against humanity regardless of who does it. And that's where I'm at.
You know the ironic thing too, Tracy, that you just mentioned? Because you know that Kamala is bragging now about the 200 prominent Republicans that have endorsed her now.
Yeah,
which
because
includes the likes of Dick Cheney. But you just said the kids in cages. Do people realize that George W. Bush created ICE and the Border Patrol in 2001? The Patriot Act, George Bush, all this stuff, George
and
Bush
Obama continued it.
And Obama and everyone else continued it. And so they put it on Trump, but then it's like Bush created that stuff, and now he's getting like in the good graces of the Democrats. Are you kidding me? And he's the one that got us in all these wars and stuff. But yet he gets to just enjoy. Oh my gosh, look at this bipartisan support. This is crazy.
When you live in a world where Dick Cheney is a hero and Ice Cube is the villain, we have problems. Tell me what Ice Cube said that was wrong. I want somebody, because I watched this one channel, I'm not going to say her name. She apparently is one of those vote blue, no matter who, black sellouts that I can't, make me want to throw up. Her, Roland Martin, Angela Rock, all up, just want to make me throw up. She was like, oh, well, Ice Cube is dangerous for the black community. Ice Cube did not say, hey, I'm voting for Trump. All he said was, I'm meeting with him. If the man is president and you know it's going to take the president's signature to pass that bill, why wouldn't you meet with him? How is this a bad idea? But he's apparently the villain, and Dick Cheney, who's responsible for the killing of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Iraqis and American soldiers, is somehow a hero. The Democratic Party managed to take George W. Bush and Dick Cheney and turn them into heroes. That's another reason I can't stand the Democratic Party. How do you turn those two into heroes? How? But you say this, oh, well, you're just for Trump. Well, okay, I guess I am with your theory. Guess I am, because what you're saying doesn't make sense.
But you said this before on our show, that it's a shaming tactic. There's no way that you can be in great principle and say that either me or you or anything that resemble Republicans, Trump supporters. And I'm going to say something that's very unpopular. I know that we may have some disagreement with this. I question to the extent that Trump is even a Republican.
Oh, no, he's not. He never has been.
Or at least the type of Republican that we associate traditionally with Republicans. I really question that a lot. And I think he can pretty much say anything to his supporters, and they just take it up, they just eat it up, just like whatever.
The man is pro.
They don't question it.
Yeah, he literally wrote one of his books, how you can fool people into thinking that he was a Republican. That was his goal. He accomplished it. He said he was pro-choice. I still believe he's pro-choice, and that's why he won't take that stance against abortion. Or stands for abortion, rather, because he knows his base is primarily against it. But he's not the only one. Look at Kamala Harris. She was against fracking, now she's for it. She was for Medicare for all, now she's against it. She was for I can name so many, I haven't even thought of them. Like, they're literally the same coin with two different sides.
Mm-hmm. And what happens when you play this game is that either side becomes smarter and they adjust to the other side's strategy. And just like a few weeks ago, I don't know if you saw this, but Trump is now talking about on the stump, his language is changing about legalization of marijuana completely out of the blue. And I told my son even watch his stances change based on, because Kamala at one point, I think the first year of Biden's administration, said that we need to legalize marijuana across the country. I haven't heard her say hardly anything about that now. She just went dead silent about it. And now Trump is saying, oh, we maybe need to consider legalizing marijuana. Now he's talking about we may need to make exceptions for abortion. He's starting to change messaging based on the other side. They're changing their positions too, like you said. It's a game. It's completely a game.
Instead of holding true to your values. As Kamala says, I didn't change my value. Girl, bye. Oh, I didn't mean to go there. But, I mean, I essentially, and I'm going to say this a lot tomorrow, I already know, this is the electoral assault. We keep voting for these people, and we know they're lying. We know that the Democratic Party is not going to codify Roe v. Wade. They're not. We've had 4 Democratic presidents, and I will name them: Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden. Guess how many times Roe v. Wade was codified under each of them? That's a big fat 0. And they all had majorities. And Obama had a super majority. Did they try it? Nope, they didn't. And the opposite, Republicans don't want to make it. Now, you have the Mike Pence Republicans that want to make it illegal everywhere. But the Republicans don't want to make it illegal everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They just use this to kind of raise money. Gun control, that's another example.
Absolutely.
How long have we been talking about banning AR-15s? Every time there's a mass shooting, it's an AR-15. How come there's no legislation that's banning AR-15s? You have the Republicans that'll blame mental health and then close down mental health centers. And then you have the Democrats who just, I don't even know what they're doing. They're arguing about principles and saying we must do something and then never do anything. Because they don't want to. Either we're going to wake up or get ran over. We've got to stop voting for these type of people. We've got to.
I want to urge people to go to opensecrets.org too. I may even not link that in the episode description. I look at people's actions and not the words. When it boils down to it, Tracy has made this point on her show lots of times. I know she talks a lot about lobbying, and she talked a lot about the Citizens United decision by the Supreme Court, which basically made corporations people. And this has also affected the campaign finance reform, to where all these candidates, these third-party independent candidates, are already at such a disadvantage because the Democrats and Republicans not only have their parties, which are corporations themselves, but then they have the mega banks, the mega pharmaceutical companies, the fossil fuel industry. All these people spread their money across both of the parties. So at that point, you can say one thing, but then you're bought off by the same people. So of course, the gun lobby has bought off both sides.
Exactly.
So the abortion lobbies or the anti-abortion lobbies, they bought off both sides. You can look, this stuff is documented. The religious lobbies, AIPAC, which is technically a religious lobby, AIPAC is technically a religious lobby that's tied to Judaism and Israel and the Israeli-American lobby when it comes to those issues in Israel. All that stuff compromises the two parties because they're all exposed to that money. They get all the dark money, all that stuff goes to them. And that's why, if you're looking at this just as from a pure standpoint, an independent candidate or a third-party candidate is automatically more pure based on that alone. Like, they're way less corrupt. They may have affairs going on and stuff, but you can't tell me that they're getting dark money and stuff. It's just not, they're not allowed to take in that kind of money. Just as a principle, they can't. And that's a big difference. People need to look at it from that standpoint.
I think that's a big thing. That's a good point. But here's my contradiction. Or no, not contradiction, because I know we agree on this. How come there hasn't been a law? You know, I hear the Democrats talk about, let's get rid of Citizens United. Has anybody put forth a bill that would get rid of Citizens United? Or you could do what Dr. West's campaign does, what Jill Stein's campaign does, what Claudia De La Cruz. I don't know if she's still running, but I'm just going to
She
assume
is.
she is. Okay,
She is.
Claudia De La Cruz's campaign does is just not take corporate money, not take PAC money, not take dark money. You could do that, but they're not going to do either because they depend on the, and yeah, people not gonna like this because it'll be shared to my Facebook page. They want the American people to remain ignorant. As long as we're not paying attention, they're going to keep doing this. But essentially, it's up to the citizen to be like, you know what? Has anything about my situation changed? I voted for Obama and thought hope and change. He didn't do anything. Then Trump came in. He didn't do anything. And then Biden came in and he didn't do anything. I've switched back and forth. But let me look at this third option. And I think that's the work that we have to do is somehow figure out, and I haven't figured it out because I've been really thinking about this. How do we get people to look at the third option and just not say it's a wasted vote? You're wasting your time. Because that's what we hear is you're just wasting your vote. And I would say, well, it's my vote to waste.
I think the biggest potential for third parties is to tap into the non-voter base, because I've always argued there have been some cycles, whether it's a 2-year cycle, a local cycle, or a 4-year presidential cycle, where I just sat out on purpose. And I know I'm not the only person that does this. It's not that I'm not a political person. It's a decision that we make, because I have been a non-voter at times. I admit to being a non-voter at times, but people are non-voters not because they don't care about politics, but it's because they've either been burnt out, they've been disillusioned by them, and they've seen the corruption and it's been too hard to take in. I think you can get some of those people back in your camp, and I think third parties would attract those type of people more so than anybody else, more, at least a duopoly candidate. I think we have to tap into that 40 to 45% of the people who don't vote, because honestly, the voting class is, to me, has classist tendencies. And what do
Right.
I mean by that? These professionals, these academics, these lawyers and doctors, these people who are well-to-do. That was another thing too. I'm only going to make this one comment because I know you haven't watched the debate itself, but I'm going to include this in my Substack. Kamala never, or Trump, neither one of them ever mentioned the word poverty one time.
Nope, they never will.
All they talked about was middle class, which is this ambiguous term.
Screw
So
the poor people.
their messaging is automatically you have to be at least a professional level or higher. Their messaging isn't even directed to the homeless people. It's not directed to poor Black people in the hood. They're not directed to poor white people in the suburbs. Their message is directed to suburban, professional people who are trying to get, I guess, uplift themselves into this capitalistic system and reap the benefits of capitalism, whatever they are, and just live within the system. And they're totally content with capitalism. And so within that standpoint, they're totally okay with the electoral system. You have a lot of people, if you don't think that the electoral system is corrupt, I know a lot of people think like that. Of course, you're not going to see any need to change anything. But people like us see that there's a dire need to change the system because it's not fair to people. So if you're one of those complacent people like, okay, the system is okay the way it is, sure, it has its flaws. Those same types of people are the ones, these are the people who are the voters, and those are the types of people that Kamala and Trump are going after because they already know that they've ostracized a
Right.
whole segment of people because they've disenfranchised those people. And then on top of that, the third party candidates, like right now, they're kicking everyone off the ballots as much as they can. Dr. Shiva, Cornel West, Dr. West, Dr. Stein, everyone, Claudia De La Cruz, anyone that's
Well,
third party independent, they're trying to kick them off.
let's minus Dr. Shiva because he's not a U. Yeah, he never coming on my show. Just just never.
Oh, don't do that. I get
No,
that,
he's
but
not a U.S. citizen. That's one of the rules. You have to be a naturalized citizen. That is why I was against Cenk Uygur. I'm like, dude, you weren't born here. You have to be born here or have parents that served in the military and you were born overseas. One of those two ways. If you don't meet the qualification, miss me. So we can talk about everybody else, but just not Dr. No, just not
well,
to
no,
me.
I have
Not
to.
to me.
No, I have to include him in because he's actually been behind writing some of these lawsuits that have actually benefited Dr. West and Dr. Stein.
He
So
can do that. He just can't run. I'm not saying he can't. Like,
but he's made the case on my show, and he's made the case in general that he is allowed to run, like based on the Constitution. Like that's the argument he's made, he's presented, and I don't have any reason to disagree with what he's saying. If he's gotten this far and he's getting on ballots around the country, that's telling me
5
that
ballots don't count.
okay. I just,
I'm joking.
I don't.
But,
I guess in the name of solidarity, like I don't want to.
yeah, I guess in that sense, but I'm just like everybody else. I didn't have problems with, but then you got to tell them like, just like no.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm actually interviewing him this coming Tuesday.
But don't say like, well, Tracy said.
No. I'm not going to say anything about that. I mean, some of his people follow the forum anyway. But no, I think it's noteworthy that this stuff is going on, and that's what Dr. West has consistently said. And Dr. Stein. Now, I don't know if you watched the Breakfast Club interview.
She was on the Breakfast Club.
Have you seen that?
But Dr. West did it first. But yes, she was on the Breakfast Club.
But did you see the reaction to that?
What reaction to what? I'm sorry.
To Dr. Stein and Dr. Ware. Butch Ware was on there with her.
But what happened? Because I haven't watched, I don't follow the Stein campaign, so.
Put it this way. It is completely, it went totally against what they thought it was going to happen. Everyone is on Jill Stein and Butch Ware's side. Like, they're like, we know y'all trying to sheep herd us into the Democrats. That's what everyone was saying in the comments. Like, we know you're trying to force us to vote for the Democrats again, like you do every cycle. That's basically what the comments were saying. You don't want us to support Dr. West, Dr. Stein. You don't want us to support anybody else but Kamala. That's what everyone was saying.
So she's run. Okay, and I'm not, y'all know I'm not a Jill Stein supporter, but she meets the criteria to run so she can run. I have to watch that because one, the only time
it's worth to watch.
The only time, to be honest, I've ever watched The Breakfast Club is when two people were in there, Nina Turner and Dr. West. Any other time, I'm not watching it because they're a little bit vote blue no matter who. For me, I can't, it's hard for me to swallow that vote blue because I can't no matter who. It's kind of a hard pill for me to swallow, but I'll go back and watch it.
I could see you reacting to it. It was that strong of a reaction. Like, it went viral pretty quickly.
And I try not to read the comments because you can tell where people are going. It's like, what are y'all watching?
Tracy, I was so shocked at how people were like, that you're not going to do this. This is not going to work.
She's trying to get people to vote for Kamala. Are they saying she was... No, I'm saying that's what you said, right?
No, the people in the comment section was like, we're not going to support a genocide.
Okay.
That's where we cut the line off. Like, we know that you're trying to get us to, like the Breakfast Club, they know that the Breakfast Club is trying to get them to support the Democratic nominee.
Oh, so they were saying the Breakfast Club is trying. Okay, well, that's common sense.
My bad. Yeah. But I see what you're saying. No, I was shocked because that's been different even from previous Breakfast Club interviews because some people are still trying to trash the cat. Like Cornel West, some people are still kind of like, a lot of people were in support of Dr. West, but they were still like holding reservation with the Breakfast Club because that crowd is very much a vote blue no matter who crowd. A lot of those people
and then you ask them why. They're not racist. No, ask them why. I keep asking Democrats, why are you voting for this party? And they're not Trump. That's not an answer. I listen to people who say, oh, she's not Trump. I am not Donald Trump. I cannot run for president, and my only thing that I give you to vote for me is I'm not Trump. It doesn't work for me. It just doesn't.
You said something earlier that was so interesting. You mentioned this. You made a comment about black men being so exploited by the Democratic Party. I
Absolutely.
think that that's something else too that is very disrespectful as far as I'm concerned. I don't try to put my like masculinity in it or anything, but I just think that it's messed up that I got so much flack from white women, especially the last presidential cycle. Like a lot of people that I used to work with, I basically they were making me have to like justify why I wouldn't support Joe Biden based on everything he's done to the
Because
black
he's a
community.
segregationist, racist piece of crap.
Yes, exactly.
Like, why?
And they made it, and they make it. They don't understand why people are running away from the Democratic Party. And I don't know why you're just blind. You're
They
if you think that MAGA is a cult, then you must be a cult too, because a lot of people don't see what you don't see,
Blue
and everyone else
MAGA.
sees it.
I talked about that before. Whatever Joe Biden does, it's okay with them. It's okay that he's giving money to Israel. Like I said, we're working for peace. When literally I just outlined what it takes is a few sentences. Basically, we're cutting the money off. That's really all it takes. He won't do that, but you excuse that because to you, he can't do anything wrong. When Joe Biden said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. I still don't know why black people were okay with this statement. Oh, he got too familiar. If Trump had said that same statement,
Ostracized.
you'd have got him. You say, oh, he's racist and he's this. Just say, it's okay when my person does it, but when other person does it, I have a problem. At least that point of honesty I can deal with. But
Mm-hmm.
this blue MAGA delusional, I got to vote for you because, well, in this case, Kamala, because you're black. No, it's going to take a little bit more than that. See, I don't even want to go into the she's not a foundational black America. I'm not even going to touch that
Right.
because, well, she's black. Well, she is, but she's also Indian. That's just
Mm-hmm.
a fact, right? Just a fact. We can look at her and tell she's black. I can just look at her and tell, but she doesn't talk about it. I want to ask and I've been asking this, and of course, I've been called a Trump supporter so many times. I have really, literally lost count of like how many times people said I'm a Trump supporter.
That is ridiculous. That really is. I
You
mean,
follow me on Facebook, you see the stuff I get. You saw what I got when I said
I get it too. I get it too.
that anybody that votes for Harris or Walls or Trump and Vance support genocide. You saw what I got when I said, "Hey, Holocaust Harris, would you?" I mean, you get it, and people don't realize like you just must want Trump to win. You know, I don't even argue with those people. I'm like, "Yep, I do. Sure. If that's what you're gonna think, I can't have a conversation with you when you're so irrational." But it's
Mm-hmm.
that blue MAGA phobia that's gotten
Yep.
into their heads. And I don't think they realize it because
They don't.
apparently I'm saying things that are triggering, right? I'm like, oh, okay, I've triggered people with what I'm saying. Well, you're painting a broad brush. I don't think genocide is a broad brush to paint. I think forcing people from their home and destroy their homeland is disgusting. And I'm not going to vote for a candidate that does that. Period. And if you vote for them, you're okay with it. Because if you weren't okay with it, you would vote against them. It's that simple for me. But I tend to oversimplify things. I get that I do that. But at the end of the day, people have to know what it is that they stand for and what it is they won't stand for. I won't stand for genocide. I won't stand for the fact that 61 million Americans still don't have health insurance. Did they talk about health care? No. In the clip, she talked about expanding the Affordable Care Act. Are you serious? That thing is crap. That piece of garbage is garbage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how many little baby steps it made. If it's not Medicare for all, I don't support it. Period. I don't care. You don't have to like me. If that means that this election goes to Trump, so be it. I literally am tired. I'm literally like, I can't keep voting for something that I'm against. I can't do it.
But I say it's a cultish mentality because
Oh no, it's not a cultish mentality. It's a cult,
it's a
flat
cult
out.
because there's more people outside of them than there are a part of that cult. Most of the voting bloc we know are independents anyway, and the thing about it is this: I don't even use terms or monikers like Holocaust Harris or any of that stuff, but I've heard people say, Kiko, just say that you want Trump to win. And I'm saying to myself, why do you think that I want Trump to win? First of all, I'm in a Trump state. Trump's going to win Tennessee and Indiana anyway.
Yeah,
So
like they
why?
go like Harris. She ain't even been
So
to Indiana. Has she
so
came to
what?
Tennessee? Nope. She ain't
So
came to
why?
Tennessee not one time. I bet you. I bet you. Bet you. Bet you.
So
Bet you she
why?
ain't came to Tennessee.
So why
Oh,
y'all
she did
vote
come to
shaming us?
Indiana. I'm sorry, she did, but that was before she announced. She did come to Indiana. I take that, but she didn't come to campaign. She came to speak for a sorority.
Mm-hmm. I
Where
just
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no. You go. You go.
Where people decided they heard the man say colored when he clearly said college. The man on Fox said college. I'm not going to sit here and argue. He said college. He did not say colored. Did he say colored? No, he said college. I'm not going to argue with you. Cuz now
I tell
you just making up stuff now.
I tell you, Tracy. This is my recommendation. Full disclosure: I'm not a Jill Stein supporter. I'm saying as a non-Jill Stein supporter, I'm actually not revealing who I'm supporting at all, like just for the purposes of my particular platform. But it's must watch. It's a must watch interview. I never thought I would say that about a Breakfast Club interview, but the fact that they even platformed someone, especially like Jill Stein and Bush Ware from the Green Party, because this is pretty late in the election cycle. And I was like, they're actually going to let them give their platform on the
I'm
Breakfast Club.
surprised that they had on any. I'm surprised the DNC didn't say, "Hey, don't be having them on there."
But when you watch, you will see exactly what the DNC had in store. There was definitely some DNC operatives there. It was so disrespectful, Tracy.
Of
Like
course it is.
I can't even
She's giving
describe
the
it.
election to Trump. Really?
They were
Like
so
Harris owns the
disrespectful.
votes? Like, nah, I've been free for a long time. I was born free, so my vote belongs to whoever I give it to.
They apparently Angela Rye blocked so many people on X after this happened. It blew back in her so bad.
She
Like she
said
blocked
so.
everyone.
Yeah,
She
she
blocked
was like,
damn near
"Well,
everyone off
you
X.
ran against the first black governor of Massachusetts. Okay, he's in an office, so you can't run against him. What? Why? And please don't let me start talking about AOC Pelosi. I don't really
Oh,
want to go to.
I
Please, that's a whole nother hour. Cause girl, sell out much? Oh my goodness! She's like the Green Party has a girl. Worry about y'all. Worry about the fact that your party is funding genocide. That might take some time, but
it's
I
I
think
tell
that's
you,
gotten under her nerves because you could tell by looking at some of her videos. I'm like, yep, they done got her.
yeah. I tell you something you said earlier about your principles, and you have been since day one, ever since I've known you, you've been all about universal health care. And I have made this argument so many times because I look at other countries, even a country, let's take Cuba, for instance, where universal health care is installed in that country. A lot of the leaders in Cuba have very conservative minds. They have very conservative mindsets. But because healthcare is a right in that country, they can't really discriminate someone based on them being transgender or whatever it is, because everyone has access to that same healthcare. So I would argue that if we had universal healthcare in this country, abortion would be a mute point.
Absolutely.
All these things they would not be talking points anymore. The
And that's
people
why they
would
don't
already
want
have that
it.
autonomy. Exactly.
That's why they don't want. Oh, that and the insurance industry, Pat. I
And the
mean,
insurance industry, obviously, yeah.
but that's exactly right. If We are the only first world country without health care as a right. And apparently, neither candidate cares. And people are okay with that. And I'm like, I keep asking people, why are you okay with this? Tell me, because it's something I feel like I'm missing. Because I can't understand the logic. The logic of the two-party system doesn't make sense to me. You see they've done nothing. You know they're not going to do anything, but you feel like you have to vote for them. You don't have to vote for them. And I've said this before. I'm not, I'm definitely not going to vote for Jill Stein because I have a podcast called Congratulations to Cornel West, the 47th president of the United States. So you already know where my vote's going. However, as long as you don't vote for Trump or Harris, you and me are fine. I'm fine with you and you fine with me because we have no beef. We are cousins.
So that's what I mean. Liberals just don't have any principles. Like I hate to say that because I get most of my friends are liberals, but I'm going to say this now. You can't have any principles if you just said right there that you don't support Trump. So how are you going to say that we support Trump when we don't? Like we're telling you that we don't support Donald Trump, but yet you still keep putting that label on us.
I
Unfairly.
literally put in the same sentence, if you support this ticket or this ticket,
Mm-hmm.
guess what everybody focus on first half? I'm like, some of them I just want to write, did you read exactly what I said, or are you reading what you want me to say?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's this whole, like delusional, my candidate is great and he can do no wrong, or I can work with him. I can't work with genocide. Me. I can't work with somebody that says I'm against fracking Albania and now you're for it and you want to expand it. You don't just change your views like that overnight. You don't. Yeah, I'm going to hurt some people's feelings, but I don't care. You don't change your views overnight. Believe it or not, I was more on the pro-life side when I was younger. It took decades. And then I was like, yeah, that's how old I am, everybody. For me to say, oh, you know what? Now I see it. I didn't just change overnight my stance on healthcare. I thought, when the Affordable Care Act came out, it was a good thing. And then I start realizing, talking to people, how much it costs, what it does not cover. There's 3 different types of tiers. Depending on which tier you get, you could be talking up to $400 a month and a premium. And I'm like, you know what? We need healthcare for everybody for free. That's literally the base that I established. But because I was willing to say, my thinking might be wrong. I might not be correct on whatever issue it is that I've turned around on. And I don't think Red MAGA or Blue MAGA is willing to make that type of concession. Because I think they're so rooted in what they believe about their team, they can't make that change. I do have one kind of pushback, because you said most Americans are independents.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really agree with that, because if you're independent, to me, that means you're not voting for Democrats or Republicans.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, we're talking about a semantic difference.
Yeah, you're talking about, because I'm like, well, how come when it comes election time, they always vote? Because to me, an independent means, oh, I'm voting Green Party, or I'm voting Libertarian, or I'm voting Constitutional, or I'm voting whatever. So maybe I don't, when people say, oh, most Americans are independent, I'm like, really? Because that's where I'm like, so if you could kind of expand on that, I would appreciate it.
They are, and also a word unaffiliated is used too. Most people are independent, but you have to understand, I also include within this pile of people disenfranchise the non-voters. My view is that a non-voter is a voter. A non-voter is making a conscious decision not to vote. We had this conversation the first time I think I was on your platform, and a lot of people don't understand what is meant by that. I'm simply saying that as a non-voter, at one point when I was a non-voter, I was totally aware of what I was doing when I made that decision. I just felt like neither party spoke to me. And so I decided to sit out. You have a lot of people like that, and I would consider those people independent of the two parties. So,
Okay.
on top of
Because
that,
when most people say, because Roland Martin says he's an independent.
oh,
Boy,
oh gosh, yeah.
boy, bye. Boy, bye. Dude, you gave Hillary answers to questions at a debate. Dude, bye. So when I hear people say that, I'm like, and I'm looking at your voting record, I'm like, have you ever voted for a third party candidate? Nope, you're not independent. To me, maybe we're just defining it different.
No,
I
you're
definitely
100%
define it
right.
as you're going to vote for a third party candidate.
I believe that that's going to change, though, Tracy. You're hitting something, and I agree with what you're saying. I get what you're saying. The way the mainstream media uses independent is different from the way I use independent, the way you use independent. Independent in the mainstream media means these people haven't broken to the Democrat or the Republican side yet.
Right. Yeah, okay.
I mean independent in a more broader sense that a lot of people that we connect with out there honestly don't follow politics a whole lot. They have general ideas and views. But I know myself, just I can think of probably 50 people directly. I'm not going to mention their names, obviously, but I can think of about 50 people in my personal life where if they would not have known me in their life, they may not have been as interested in politics. But I've kind of educated them on how the system works and stuff. And so they're like, okay, I see what he's talking about now. But before I introduced them to that stuff, they really couldn't care less about what this voting was, like going in and pushing a ballot every 2 to 4 years. There's a lot of people in the country like that. They honestly don't know what to think because they're being kind of just guided by what people are telling them to do, whether it's the people in their social groups, the people that they go to church with, the people that they work with, the parents or the family, whoever it may be. There's a lot of people who are truly untapped and independent in the sense that they don't have a philosophical background yet to be like, okay, this is the reason why I am supporting candidate A, B, C, and D. Yeah, I would consider that independent too. I just think that those people need to be reached out to. And I think once we do get to a point where there are more people on that debate stage, like we were saying before, those people will break and they can see someone who reflects their values more. But the reality is that this is a two-party system. It's a uniparty, whatever you want to call it, to where people feel like they have to choose one side or the other side.
Yeah, it's a silly system. You're taking 350 million Americans, including children, and you're just putting them in two categories.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make sense. Like, wouldn't you think America is diverse so you would oh shoot, I lost my sensor.
You're good.
No, I mean I lost my diabetic sensor.
No, I'm saying no. You can I can keep talking while you find it. Or
oh
whatever.
no, I found it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, to put people in two categories, when you walk into the grocery store and you want to pick soda, or I call it pop because I'm in the Midwest. You want to pick pop. You have Pepsi, you have Coke, and then you have like maybe 15 or 16 other brands. That's too many choices. I've literally heard people say it's too many choices. I just need two choices. Okay, you're going to go to the store. You see all these other choices, but you know which one you want. You make a decision. Usually I go by price. What's the cheapest form of whatever it is I want, except for macaroni and cheese and toilet paper? Those are two things I will not come down off of those. But I normally go for price. Well, somebody may go with, oh, I saw such and such on a commercial. What's wrong with having more choices? Shouldn't we? We say that the president, people say, oh, president, well, it's Congress that holds the power. Yeah, but it's the president that has the pen. Shouldn't we have more choices? Maybe if we had more choices, we would get a debate where instead of avoiding questions, they would actually answer questions and not sidestep the economy and not sidestep Afghanistan and not sidestep the border or bring up immigration, even though the question literally had nothing to do with immigration in the first place. Oh, and then say that Haitians eat dogs. Trust me, I'm going to go off on that one. I'm going to go off on that one. But it's like, I guess I just wish I understood how to reach people. And I know I don't know how to do it.
It's the debate was reductionism at its finest. My title is going to be debase or debate, because they debased all the issues. And honestly, it's if you talk about foreign policy, like policy has become the operative word for war. That's all
Exactly.
foreign policy means in the American Empire is war. And they dumbed down everything. The world has been reduced to Russia, China, Gaza, Israel, Venezuela recently, Ukraine. I mean, they reduce they never talk about Africa. They never talk about Asia. It's always the usual suspects: Russia, China, or the bad people.
China bad, but we still. And this is one question I keep wanting to ask, and I ask it all the time. If China, for all the people that say we should watch for the Chinese, how come we keep taking all their imports? Wouldn't you want to, like, if I'm going to war and I do not everything wars answer. Well, you first cut them off financially, right? And then if that doesn't work, you escalate. We just accept those imports, which again, they're using this to scare people. I literally thought I heard Kamala Harris talk about war with Iran. I'm like, unless I'm just mishearing what she said in her DNC acceptance speech, I'm like, well, what the heck did Iran do to America?
So she sounds just like who? Remember at the RNC, JD Vance made those anti-Iran comments. He's like, we need to go to war with Iran. Basically, he said that we're going to get into war with Iran if they do something. He said that during the RNC, and she's saying the same thing herself. I mean, these two parties are the same.
Like, what did, like, Iran did something to us? Like, what did I miss? Technically, China hasn't did anything to us. I mean, we want to just, and I'm not saying the Chinese government is perfect. I can just see somebody, you're saying that. No, I'm not saying China's perfect. I'm not saying Russia's perfect. And I'm certainly not saying the United States of America is perfect. But they put these things, it's the military-industrial complex. Period. They're looking for more ways to fund them because they hold stock in those type of companies. That's why they're talking about wars with countries. And I'm sitting here like, well, what did they do to us? Did they bomb or did they like attack? Did they send their ships over? Did they send a balloon up? Nope. Don't cut off their trade, which would make the most sense to me. Let's just go fire off all the nuclear bombs. Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Okay, I want to segue into something, and I want to get your question. You know, we both been Black people, and just the way I feel like electoral politics have weighed on us a lot more disproportionately than other groups, and even the way they recruit people. Do you feel that with let's just use white people just for the sake of an argument, do you feel like your white friends have an easier time to have these political discussions, or do you feel like it has nothing to do with that at all? If they're talking to different groups of peers or whatever, do you feel like it's harder for us to kind of deal with this criticism within our circles versus them? Or do you think that this is just a voter specific thing and not necessarily an intersection of race and a voter?
It's a combination of both. Because if you look at the Black voter, if I'm talking about myself, the way you're going to easily recruit me, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Green, Libertarian, you're going to have to start talking about expanding the social safety net. Because I know I'm involved in direct actions enough more than most people. Most people on my Facebook page are not out at a protest. They probably never been in a march. They probably never gone to a rally to stop genocide. So that conversation with me is going to be different than somebody that's just like, I got bills to pay, or I got medications to get, or these new shoes just came out. So the conversation is different. So I think a lot of ways that the Democrats recruit black people is they still use racism. They still sell the Republican Party as racist. They have racism embedded into it. Do I think they do? Yes, I do. Here's the problem. I also think the Democratic Party has racism embedded into it, i.e. the way they treat black men, i.e. the way that they forget about black issues when they're in office, and somehow we need your vote now. But if it's not election time, I don't think my own congressperson has had a town hall ever. And he just
and
keeps
your
getting
congressperson
reelected.
is a Democrat?
Democrat.
Wow.
I'm in Indianapolis, so it's going to be a Democrat. No town halls, but keep getting reelected. But you're coming every 2 years to the churches and to the sororities and the fraternities and all those groups. Where are you at all the other times? What laws have you passed? So again, it's a different approach, because approaching me, you just not going to get away with no just anything. Because I'm more aware of like the global context and how it affects us locally. And I'm more aware of what the local context is and how it affects us globally. Whereas your average, everyday black person, if I said Congo genocide, I don't think anybody black would know what I'm talking about. They'd be like, what? Now, if I said Gaza, Palestine, they may, because it's in the news all the time. And they see the bombings. But if I said there or the Sudan, it's like a class thing. So I think in that sense, race plays a factor. But in general, overall, I'm leaning more towards it's a voter issue. But it depends on what that issue is.
I think it's definitely a voter issue too. And a very good friend of mine, a liberal friend of mine, yesterday, it's funny because a lot of my liberal friends view themselves as very far to the left, and I don't say anything when they make these comments because it's clear that they have different perspectives on that. But I got this person to admit yesterday that, Kiko, I don't know anything about what's really happening around the world. I think that's the biggest difference between people on the left like me and you and people who are so-called liberals, is that
Right.
they don't have any geopolitical awareness whatsoever.
Right. It's just right
There's
here
no
what's happening.
geopolitical
Yeah, it's me,
no
myself, and
geopolitical
I.
awareness. It's crazy. Like, it's startling the difference
Yeah,
in
that's why I said
mindset.
it's a difference, because like I said, if I'm trying to recruit you, I already know, well, I gotta come with something different. If I'm talking to a peace activist group, I gotta be different. If I'm just
Mm-hmm.
talking about Joe at the mechanic shop, that whole conversation is gonna be different.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think it's more of a voters issue, but race plays a huge factor in it. Huge factor.
As far as organizing is concerned, I go back to our first episode 5 when we were on here together, and you talked about like this whole idea of a boycott, and we talked about general strikes a little bit, and I know that you have some strong views about this. This all goes into full circle into organizing. Organizing means different things to different people, but organizing can't just mean at the electoral politics level. organizing has to be direct action too. Like I would argue, probably more so direct action. And because if you have the direct action in place, I think that that mindset automatically lends itself to more open mindedness when it comes to the electoral process, because you're not going to just accept anything. You're not just going to accept crumbs at that point. And I think that's where you kind of come into play when you talk about a general strike. How realistic is a general strike? Like where do we start when we talk about building a movement towards some kind of a mass action like that, is to where it's
Mhm.
sustainable? Like where do we start with that?
Um, Here's what I will say: we're not going to get what India had when they had their general strike. There's no way in this country 100 million people are going to ever strike at the same time,
At the same time,
because Americans are lackadaisical and we're lazy. I'm just going to say what I got to say. Now, of course, I'm for striking, but in my thinking about this, you have to be more strategic, right? You have to think which industry would be the most effective, if even, and again, you don't have to have huge numbers of people not showing. My argument is maybe 50,000 to 500,000, and that's less than 1%. That number I just quoted is way less than 1%. I don't think you need a big number to make a big impact. You just have to be smart in terms of the place that you pick, like the industry, transportation, um, healthcare, um, janitorial services, teachers. You have to start with the industry that's going to make the most impact. That's my thought now. Now, of course, y'all know I'm ready to strike. I'm just like, I'm ready to go, because we have to start demanding something. And, I've been trying to find an activist and some type of movement, and I still haven't found it. Um, and that does not mean I want to start one, because I've already started another project that I may talk about. But I think you have to start at, it has started at the community level, obviously. I think about the Medicare for All March that Indiana organized. Well, I just thought, I did that just by myself. Well, not by myself, but I just created a Facebook group and said, hey, who wants universal health care in Indiana? We're marching this day. And then after that, connecting to groups. So it has to start with, you're going to have to get groups like Workers Strike Back. Um, I don't know how well the unions would do, because I think they, in some sense, have sold out. Um, so I don't know if you can count on unions, but I do think that there has to be some type of reach out that happens, because, like I said, we're not going to get 100 million people to strike. Although personally, I would be very happy with that. Um, this is just America. We just don't. We're just not going to be in those type of numbers.
okay, so I posed this question to Brittany Jones. I think the very first time she came onto the show, Brittany Jones. I don't know if she's still running or not, but she, unaffiliated, she's running as president of the United States, and she has been on the show several times. And I know that there was a back and forth between her and Jasmine Sherman about the land back policy, which has been very documented on this show. But Brittany Jones was an active member of the military before she ran this presidential campaign of hers. She's out of the state of Oregon. And I asked her this question: do you think that that's why I basically made the point that the military numbers are so low because people don't want to join the military because they're tired of killing other people and they're tired of dying themselves. And she seemed to be taken aback by it a little bit. Like I was, like that's not the real reason why the military enrollment numbers are so low. So I guess my question to you is this a conscious reason why the military numbers are low? Is because people are saying I don't want to join the military,
I
or
think that plays.
and do you think that sentiment in the military itself is even not changing?
I think it's a combination. Um, Certainly, people have consciences, and whereas in black communities, especially, the military's always been seen as a way to economic development in terms of free loan, in terms of forgiveness of student loans, in terms of helping pay for college, healthcare, and all those things. But I think in general, people are waking up to, wait a minute, I'm killing people so I can get free college. That doesn't make sense. And you're hearing a lot more about the effects of wars on people. PTSD has been talked about a lot. And my thought is, I don't think people want that. I don't think nobody wants to suffer from PTSD. Um, and so that could be leading to the decrease in numbers. I hope there's a continual decrease in the numbers because personally, I can't understand why we have so many military bases around the world when we're technically not at war with anybody. But hey, that's just me. So I think it's a combination. I think essentially people are like, well, I'm killing other people. Why am I killing these other people? And then they're coming back home and having all of these mental health issues because of their service. So I think it's both.
I'm going to make a very unpopular comment too here, which while we're on the subject, I don't want to continue on this subject. I want to get back to organizing, but I made the comment earlier about I'm questioning to what extent Trump is actually a Republican because,
He's not. We keep saying that. He's not. He wrote a book about how to fool people.
but this whole and that question too, if we're comparing who's more anti-establishment than the other one, I mean, I just don't know if it's even worth wasting time on that either. But I noticed something too. Trump is obviously conscious of the issue of Gaza and Israel, because if he wasn't conscious of it, the other side is not counting. They're not, I guess, pushing him on it. In other words, I guess the criticism that I would have for liberals is this: you can't criticize us when your opponent or Kamala's opponent, her main opponent, Donald Trump, is obviously a Zionist, just like she is. But the problem is that she can't even call him out on it because she's a part of it herself.
Well, they're the same, right? We keep saying
You
this.
see what
They're
I
the
mean?
same. I see exactly what you mean. But the public doesn't pick up on those things, right? Because one, they don't watch independent media like Kiko's Freeform. They don't pick up on those things. So when they're hearing it, it's either Team Red or Team Blue. And while Trump will say just obliterate them, Kamala will throw in, let's expand the humanitarian aid to Palestine. Well, how's that going to stop the killing? All they hear is, oh, well, that's compassion. She wants aid for Palestine. Well, no, that's not what she said, but that's what they're hearing. And that's intentional, right? That's an intentional thing that they're doing. They have almost identical views. I keep saying, name me a Democrat, and maybe we said Barbara Lee, that we could come up with that's voted against the military's budget being increased. Maybe she's the only one, but the majority, both Democrats and Republicans, vote for that
Probably
every
Cori
time.
Bush. That's why Cori Bush got kicked out.
And maybe she deserved to get kicked out. When you don't meet the needs of your constituents, guess what happens? And plus, APAC put $15 million in her race, but that's a whole nother thing. But it's not different. And that's what, again, I wish I was able to be more effective in my communication because I don't know how many times I have to say, y'all, they're the same. 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 But January the 6th, yes, Trump encouraged them to go, but the people who went made the decision to go. Just imagine for me, Dr. West says, I don't appreciate that Kamala Harris won the election. go up to the Capitol and tear stuff apart. First of all, I'm like, are you out of your dang on mind? That's the question I'm going to ask. No, I'm not going. That's the stupidest thing I think you've ever said. These people decide to go. Yes, Trump encouraged them, but they made the decision to go, right? It was them that said, we're going to go and do this thing. Because he'd be right there with them. Could he have prevented it? Maybe. I don't know. But I'm saying those people had accountability for what they said. And people will bring up that to say they're different. Also, I don't think they remember the 1968, well, maybe some of them don't because they weren't alive like me, the 1968 Democratic Convention, but I'm not one to sit here and say anything like that. It's selective memory. I think that's where I'm getting to. Both sides of the coin have selective memory. They can never remember the bad things they do, but they can surely point out the stuff that the other person does.
I made the comment about, and I don't mean to harp on this, but I thought that this was one of the parts of the debate that is kind of like the mind game in psychology. There's a lot of psychology that goes into these so-called debates. Trump made a comment and said he basically baited Kamala into. I think this is one of the moments where he was effective against getting her a little rattled. He said, "You don't like Israel." He said, "You hate Israel." He tried to get. So he knows this issue. That's what I mean about it. He's conscious of it.
Oh, he's conscious of the decision, but he's never going to not support Israel.
Exactly. Of course.
And Kamala is never not going to support Israel.
Exactly. And then he knows that she has parts of her base that are dependent on that vote, that pro-genocide vote versus anti-genocide vote. He knows that there's a segment of the Democratic Party that does not agree with this genocide. And then he made a comment and said, "You don't like the Arabs either." He said it he basically said it consecutively. And I thought that was interesting that he made that comment. He used that and then he used the opposite just to get a reaction, I think, from her. But they're playing these games like they're really playing with fire. And he diverts it completely. When they ask him about it, he talks about Ukraine and Russia. He doesn't even talk about Gaza. He skips talking about the Palestinians. And so he uses Russia and Ukraine. We got to get out of these wars. So that's what I mean about this. He's not anti-war. He's selectively anti-war depending on the situation.
Yeah, there's a podcaster I watch every evening, and I'm not going to even mention his name because you'll know who I'm talking about. Who says he's not for Trump? And I'm one of his Patreons, so I support him. But I'm like, dude, you got this one wrong. Trump is like so pro-war. I don't know where
he is.
I mean, dude, I don't know where you've been. He may not have started one, but he sure escalated the ones that were already going. Woo, he escalated the ones that were already going. But I'm not. I'll name it off the air. I won't name it off the air.
But no, it's these games that people need to be aware of. But the politics, and the rapper Pitbull refers to them as politricks, which I think is an appropriate term. They are politricks. They're there to trick the people, and people, unfortunately, don't have that awareness to read between the lines. And that's the reason why the propaganda is so effective. It's straight propaganda. That's all it is propaganda. Tulsi Gabbard is a warmonger. The fact that she's been able to convince all of those MAGA people and all these other so-called independents that she's anti-war is so, you're full of it. She's not anti-war. She selects which conflicts she want to get into and the ones she don't want to be a part of. Like, they're warmongers at the end of the day, but it's a marketing type campaign, unfortunately, and it's worked on the people.
And we have almost 50,000 Palestinians dead because of it.
Yeah, we do.
And that's what I keep telling people. I'm like, if you are truly against genocide, don't vote for these two clowns. We can do better. We absolutely can do better.
Apart from genocide, and which is enough in itself, but everything you've alluded to before, these candidates do not want us to have a universal healthcare system of any
And
kind.
yeah,
They
I didn't
want
hear
us to have
any. Yeah,
privatized insurance.
right. Privatized insurance that keeps going up on the premiums, and if it's connected to your work, you better not quit your job because you're about to lose your health insurance. You had to be broke, busted, and poor to get on Medicaid, at least in Indiana. You had to be poor beyond poor. And to not hear about the working poor, that was just like, it was such an insult because I'm like, there are people living out of their cars
Mm-hmm.
parked in front of where they work at because they can't afford an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not talking about raising to a living wage, not the minimum wage, a living wage, because it'll cost too much. You know what? Let those costs run up because I'm tired of seeing people live in food deserts. I'm tired of people being homeless. I'm just tired. I'm tired of the whole two-party system. Just tired of it. It doesn't benefit me. It never has benefited me, and I'm gonna to try to do my best to like take people with me.
How do we mobilize beyond 2024? Um, what kind of things do we have to do going forward to assure that we can, I guess, fight reverse the propaganda, or at least have a united front to where the propaganda just isn't as effective? Do you
I
think it's already happening?
I think it's happening, but it needs to be better organized. I know a lot of people say, well, you need to organize through the labor movement, and that is a piece of it. But we can't ignore the electoral part of it either. They both go hand in hand. Um, I think one of the ways to do it is to encourage mutual aid. I think that's a piece that we on the far left, because I consider myself far left, don't talk about. Is that there are people out there who don't have clothes, who don't have a home, who don't have food, who can't afford medicine. How do we point people to those resources? Um, Getting coalitions together in states to challenge ballot access laws. That costs money, right? Because I know in Indiana, even if you run for city council, you still have to collect quite a few signatures. You have to have a door to door campaign. You have to have volunteers, right? If you don't have volunteers, well, you can run for office all you want, which is why I decided, no, I'm not going to run because I couldn't figure out how to get volunteers. I'm like, no, I can't figure it out. Um, like I said, mutual aid, door to door knocking. That's just going to be one of the, it's a hard thing to do. I've done door knocking. It's a pain in the rear end. Some of the things that people will say to you, but you've just got to keep doing it. Um, Social media is a big part of it. Um, Encouraging people to vote locally, which is where I think the most important part of voting is. It's not the presidential race because we already know they not changing. Chances, that's not going to happen. But if you really want to make a difference, encouraging people to vote in their city council elections because a third party candidate probably has a better chance of getting a city council seat or a mayor seat or a governor seat than a presidential seat.
Mm-hmm.
Got to fundraise because unfortunately of the system that we live in. But again, door to door knocking, mutual aid, social media, it's got to be a combination of all of those things. Reaching out to community groups. And another thing, we've got to put aside some of this beef that third parties have with each other. Because,
Mm-hmm.
like, y'all, come on now. Like, y'all up here arguing over 52 cents. Really? Really? It's like, whatever y'all got against you, work it out, hug it out, do whatever you need to do. But the goal is this. And if this is the goal, we can put aside what we got going. Me and you are beefing, and we both say, hey, universal health care is our goal. Although I'd like to call it Medicare for all because universal, that can mean anything.
Okay.
But if Medicare for all is our goal, okay. As long as you're not a white supremacist or a black okay, cool. Let's work together. You may not like the way I treat you. You may not like the way you treat. I may not like the way you treated me. But you know what? It's the goal. It's the policy, not the politics per se. So I think it's the third parties, and I keep saying this, and I may say it in my possible interview, but like locally, run your own thing. But nationally, hey, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna all get behind you. You're gonna be our one. And I think that could make a difference. And then here comes the flip side, because I see the flip side too. The media is never going to cover a third party. People say, one of the criticisms I hear from other people is, what does the Green Party do when it's not working for president? I was like, they run thousands of candidates at the local level. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the other hand, they're not seeing it, because corporate media is keeping them from seeing it. So if we can figure out how to get around that media piece, that's a big one. And that's the one I'm just like, well, okay. That's the one I can't figure out. But the other ones, yeah. Unite. Because we're never all gonna agree on everything. I'm sure if you and me disagree on a lot of things, but we both understand what needs to be done. And we understand things need to change.
Mm-hmm.
We may not agree on how to get there, but we know, what we've got, that is not going to work.
I don't think that I would, and I don't think you would either. I don't think you would impede a pathway, whether you propose it or if I proposed it, despite our disagreements. Like, I think if you're down for the cause, it's like you got to be going in a certain trajectory. So, I mean, you got to kind of put your personal stuff aside, because at the end of the day, I do want everything, the bigger picture. I want Medicare for all for everybody. I want student loan debt cancellation for everybody. I want to see all those things happen. Like, all these other things, it's like, okay, like we were saying the last episode when I was on your show with Theus and Marlon, we got to build on these issues. We got to have coalitions.
We have to, because without them, we're going to keep feeling. We're going to keep saying they won't let us in the debates. They won't let us in the debates, because I guarantee you this. And again, I'm using Dr. West because that's who I support. I made mine clear way back September last year. That's who I was going with. That's who I'm riding with, whatever. If Dr. West was polling at 20%, they would still find a way to keep him out of debates. Mm-hmm. Still. He could be polling at 50%, and they would say, oh, no, it's got to be 61. He could be polling at, well, not 90, because that'd be kind of hard. Because if he was at 90%, I would just keep it petty and start laughing at people. But see, that's why, because I believe in pettiness wholeheartedly. Something I'm working on. But if he was at that 23rd, they'd be like, well, see, you got to be polling because in Louisiana, you're at this percent, and in Tennessee, you're at this percent. It's always an excuse. And it's really, if you look at it, it's when the League of Women Voters stop hosting the presidential debates. I don't know why they can't just start up, because they host debates at the local level, but they've taken on some of those rules even in Indiana. Our complaint was when they had the Secretary of State's race. They arbitrarily said, oh, you got to be on the ballot. Well, that was good. That meant the Green Party candidate was going to be at the debate. Then a couple of weeks before, no, they've got to be polling at 20%. Just arbitrarily changed it. So maybe what we need to do is to be starting to work with having debates sponsored by other than networks. Maybe all independent media needs to get together and say, hey, all of us together, we could put aside whatever we got going on and combine and say, hey, we've got a presidential debate. I mean in person.
But independent media has very unfortunate agendas because and this is why I don't really mess with Jimmy Dore because I know that people affiliated with Jimmy Dore, they like he had his rivalry already with the Young Turks because he was part of the Young Turks network. And then these people have so much baggage because they don't see eye to eye on anything anymore because
Yeah, it's like they let personal things get in the way of, like, think of the goal. It's the goal is the thing. And I say this all the time. If Donald Trump passes Medicare for all, in that way, I don't have to, he don't
I'm
have to
for
like
it.
me. I don't have to like him. It's the policy. It's
Exactly.
the policy. I don't care if Kamala does it. I don't care if Trump does it. I don't care if a president 20 years down the road does it. I just want it passed. I don't care who does it. If you're for the policy, that's the thing. But I still think, I still think there's some of us podcasters, the two people that are on here, can expand and say, hey, all of us put together, all 10 of us, we want to debate on this day. And this is where we're going to have it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's important. Because people are not watching mainstream media like they used to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the ratings have really, really fell off. Of course, nobody watches my channel, so I'm just back here watching. But I think that, the same thing we said about building coalitions applies to independent media also.
No doubt about it. But to that point, when I talked to John Stasevich off camera because we still keep in touch, and he was saying how hard it was to get on certain shows when he was running as an independent. He says you realize who is actually real in this space. There's a lot of fake personalities in this independent YouTube internet space. These people that are apparently like friendly towards the third parties and independents, but as soon as they have these opportunities, they don't want to reach out and interview people out there. All
Nope.
they're just trying to get their numbers up. They don't care about reaching out to the smaller people and the candidates that really need the visibility. They're just trying to go out and get the big name people. Like they're just like the mainstream media.
Exactly. But I'm saying we don't necessarily need those.
We don't, but we have to also.
We know it's there, right? We know it's there. Because I'm one, if you're going to act a fool, okay, be a fool all by yourself, because I don't got time for it. There's too many people without health care for me to sit around and worry about you. We can either combine or not combine, walk your way, walk mine, but what you're not going to do is keep me off the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you could be I'm a whole bipolar. What you do in the dark, it will come to light. If you are fake, somebody gonna pick up on it and start reporting on you. Because I definitely have a problem with one channel in particular that tells third party candidates not to run.
Oh wow.
They did not even cover the Medicare for All march that took place over 56 states, but they say they're for it. And I think y'all all know I'm talking about TYT. You can't tell me to vote for, just hold your nose and vote for Biden and push him. No, Bernie Sanders tried that same mess. And it didn't work then, and it's not going to work now. But of course, they never said they were for third party, so I can't expect them to be, right?
I wonder what they're going to do now because they made this whole thing. They made this whole year since October the 7th about genocide. So what are they going to do now? They're going to do something different this time, or they're just going to keep?
That's a policy. They're willing to do what other Democrats are doing. Just vote for her anyway.
Mm.
And I'm just like, this is unconscionable. I'm looking for something to watch at 6 p.m. every day. Because I like to do things like I'm a schedule type person. But that's not the only example. You have Roland Martin calling people stupid
Oh gosh.
if you disagree with them. And then when he gets confronted by the person that he called stupid, hides behind a woman. But see, I'm not one to, point that kind of stuff out. Because see, I'm just, I'm just saying facts. He hid behind that woman. And the man, he wasn't there to fight. he was just like, hey, I'm here. Why don't you say it to my face? Which is what I would say. But, you have a lot of people that are just so. The people who I tend to like, they keep it real 100%. And that's what I appreciate about them.
I was going to say, Theus made an interesting comment the last time we talked, on your show, destroying the duopoly, and I do agree with Theus that this is going to eventually become a parliamentary type system where the minor parties are definitely going to have more leverage, and I think they're at bigger levels. We will start to see huge policy shifts because of this type of a system, because the minor parties have kind of the cards, I guess, at the end of the day. But see, we don't even have that now because, and I think that's why you and I understand the criticism that we have and the almost resentment at times that we had towards the Democrats, is because the Democrats are the ones that are co-opting the messaging. Like, they're the ones that are taking these positions and watering all these positions down. The Green New Deal. Look at what they did to the Green New Deal. And then by the time it's filtered through their lens, the country is getting a misconception of what the Green New Deal really is because of what they're doing. Like, they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah, we're concerned about climate change, says Kamala Harris. But we're going to do offshore drilling on federal land all we want. Those two things at the same time can't be true. Right? Which, again, it's like you got to listen to you got to know where their money is coming from, because that's going to dictate everything they do. You got to listen to what it is that they're saying and listen to what it is they're not saying.
Mm-hmm.
When I hear somebody like AOC who literally hasn't talked about Medicare for all ever since she did that sit-in, whatever happened to that AOC that did the protest at Nancy Pelosi? She gone. Like, that's never coming back, right? She hasn't talked about Medicare for all, a living wage. All the things she campaigned for are gone because she became a part of the establishment.
Yeah, she didn't want to get primary like Cori Bush did.
Exactly. Or Jamal Bowman.
Or Jamal Bowman. Did he lose too?
He lost too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's old news. I thought you knew that. Yeah, Jamal Bowman lost.
I don't get. Sometimes that there's gaps between it because there was a lot going on during that time. Just like in our personal life and stuff, when my mom has been sick, so that's possibly the reason why. I lost track of that.
And then they're like, well, I feel like this. Yes, money does play a role. But if you're out there advocating for people, AIPAC can put all the money it is, because they did it to Rashida Tlaib, and she easily won hers. Easily. Because her people perceive that she's doing the things that she said she was going to do. Now, I don't live in Detroit in the district that she lives in, because I don't know. I don't live in Michigan. But what I'm saying is, if you're out there advocating on what you said you were going to do, AIPAC can put all the money they want to. They could put in trillions of dollars. You're still not going to lose, because your supporters, if you're doing right by them, are going to keep voting for you. And of course, they all said they want to be one term. So now at least two of them were one term. No, wait a minute. Cori Bush is the only one that's one term. Or no, she's two term also. Never mind. They all said they wanted to be one term. What is this, AOC's third time running? Like, you didn't want to be one term when you said that. So some people are just very good liars.
Do you think, what does organizing, when we talk about the composition of organizing, how much is it psychological versus like foot soldiers in the streets? Like, I guess my question, and I'm going to break it down a little bit. Do you really believe that protesting is effective? That's where I want to get at with this question. How effective is protesting? Does it depend on what you're protesting, or is protesting ineffective in itself?
I want to say that protesting is effective because I believe in protesting. I'm cautioning saying that protesting is effective because I'm looking at the anti-Israel, and I'm calling them anti-Israel, but I don't have the right term for it. The protests that took place to stop the bombing in Gaza. There were hundreds of thousands of people at those protests. Did Congress then turn around and say, you know what? Look at all these people. They must be saying something. No, they doubled down and now are trying to pass a law that says that if you speak against Israel, you could face jail time. Now, speak against America all you want, but you better not speak against Israel. So in that sense, it's not effective. However, I would always say protesting is effective in this way. Because the goal sometimes is not to get media attention. Sometimes it's to get people attention. And I definitely think protesting, and that's an economic protest also. Mm-hmm. Because that's where I think foot soldiers and money soldiery can go very well. If we all on the far left decide, you know what, we're not going to Starbucks. Guilty. I'm going to just say right now, I'm guilty. I know I shouldn't go there, but it's right up the street. And I'm like, oh, I want a coffee. So making a decision, I'm going to try to make coffee at home. Really, really try. Or go to locally owned coffee shops. But if we all just said, no, we're not going to support them. We're not going to put our money there. That would change. And you know how I know it would change? Because it worked with the bus boycotts in Montgomery. Now, yes, it took a year for them to not ride those buses, for them to change their policies, but it worked. They had both foot soldiers and they were withholding their money. Mm-hmm. And that's the type of protest I think we need to do. We still need to do the protest. Don't ever stop the protest. But I think we need to start an effort to withhold our financial support. And that may be hard to do because you don't know where Apex got their little fingers everywhere. It's just pervasive. It could just be bottled water. And you're like, well, this is I didn't know. But that's
SodaStream, Israeli company.
Exactly. And it's hard to, I know it's hard. People out there, you're going to be protesting everything. No, you don't protest everything. But if you just say, I'm not going to McDonald's. I know McDonald's supports the bombing because they're donor situation. I know that, go to a locally owned restaurant. 9 times out of 10, a locally owned restaurant is not going to support bombing in Gaza. And if they do, find another local restaurant. So I think it's a combination of foot soldiers and withholding money. Because once you hit those pocketbooks, oh boy, there's a conscious change. It's like, oh, wait a minute, something happened. What? Oh, let me change it. Now, are they changing their hearts? No. But now they're really responding to, oh, my pockets. I don't have as much money as I used to.
See, now I feel like when you're saying this is interesting, it almost makes me feel like maybe electoral politics is more effective in a situation like this. I don't think what you're describing is realistic. Because even when you were talking about the boycotts back then, you wouldn't have had like a Starbucks to go to necessarily because capitalism wasn't as developed back then.
Right, but I'm just giving that as an example.
Now everything is so tied in together. I mean,
right. Walmart, that's why I said, I said that in my
that.
Right, like I said that in my statement.
Sells all this stuff.
Right,
all the local grocery stores sell these brands in their stores now. They sell the Starbucks brands. Walgreens sells Starbucks brands. Like McCafe is sold.
Understand? That's why I said, you can't pick every last single company. You just can't. There's no way because I would be buying nothing. But you can pick 3. You could pick 3 companies and you and 20 of your friends and 20 of their friends and 20 of their friends and 20 of their friends. I didn't say what you aren't saying isn't true. It is, because capitalism is everywhere. But I'm also not saying that you're going to be able to protest everything, because capitalism is everywhere. I mean, the core is to, of course, get rid of capitalism. That's the core, but that's going to take years and years and years and years and probably centuries, right? Because we're so used to it. But ultimately, you could just start with one company. Just literally start with one. I will not go to McDonald's.
But I guess this is kind of getting to what is this mobilizing or is this actually organizing? Is that technically
And
organizing?
I think it is organizing when you get other people, because every movement starts with one person. You know, Dr. King didn't start the March on Washington by himself, nor did he even organize it. It was other people doing it.
Mm.
It was other people organizing the Code Pink. It wasn't Medina Abdul. I'm going to get her name
Medea
wrong.
Benjamin
Yeah, Medea Benjamin.
and Jody Evans.
Yes, and Jody Evans. Sure, they may have started it, but one person got another person and got another person and got another person and got another person. And I think that's where I'm getting to. Now, how
Okay,
you get those other people, that's the part I don't know how to do.
so does it have to become an organization? Is the next question I have.
No, it doesn't. Because you could have the Green Party, Libertarian Party, Forward Party, and I'm talking about electoral politics. You could have the Justice for All Party, the PSL Party, all unite and sue for ballot access in Tennessee, in Indiana. I'll just use Indiana as the example. Um, that doesn't mean they're all lined up together or making one organization. That just means we've come together and we're going to use our voice for this one issue. It's kind of like what I was talking about. Hey, run everybody you are going to for at the local level, but when it comes to president, we're gonna all just get behind this person.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we need a united front electorally and direct action wise though. That's the
I
only way it's
do,
going to
but
work out.
organizationally, then you really start talking about politics, because that's where ego can be um, a thing, right? Because if you're getting organizations, literally, there could be 5 organizations that say I'll pick something, mutual aid. One, what type of mutual aid you're going to offer? Okay, so canned goods to the needy. Well, you got to collect the canned goods. Where are you going to store the canned goods? So you could connect to this person that you know has a garage that they're not using. Then you could have somebody get somebody else from a whole different company that has a truck that gives them. You see what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
you don't all have to, you can all have your own individual things going, but you can also come together for a project. Not a project, but a cause, in a sense.
A cause.
Yeah, a cause.
Mm.
Thank you. But it doesn't have to be. We're going to form a new organization. Sometimes I don't think that's necessary, because literally, I can't tell the difference between PSL and Green Party. I'm like, well, y'all pretty much the same. What's the difference? I mean, I'm probably sure there are some, but I can't define any. Now, I can tell the difference between the Libertarian Party and Green Party. Now, if you ask me that, yeah, I can definitely tell the difference. But I can't tell the difference between the Constitutional Party and Libertarian. I'm like, okay, they sound exactly like to me.
No, they're
But
very different. The constitutional and the Constitution and Libertarian Party are, but the example that you made with the PSL and the Green Party is interesting. Based on my experience, PSL has a better grasp of they have more of a third world focus. And I know a lot of people don't like to use the word the global south. I think the PSL focuses a lot more on global south type. They have an ideological difference when it comes to how you get to socialism, I think. And the Green Party will be viewed more as like an eco-socialistic type party. And the PSL is more so, they would probably focus more on Cuba specific, Venezuela specific issues and relate that to maybe what's going on here versus the Green Party, who is more, I don't want to say that they're not aware of like what's going on in Venezuela and stuff, but it seems like that their focus is more domestic. And the Greens also are they're international. You can pretty much find Green parties all over the world. That's not the case for PSL. PSL is very, very young, I guess, in terms of relativity compared to like its expansion. And the Green Party has lots of different chapters all over the world. PSL, not so much.
Right. And I'm just using them as in generic
Yeah.
terms. But again, I don't always think that a new organization needs to be started. And that wasn't my goal when I did the Medicare for All March. I was definitely not looking to start a new organization. I'm just like, hey, let's pull some people from here and pull some people from there, and let's just go march.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're going to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that there's a lot more we could discuss, but we'll stop it here because we are at around 2 hours, and I think that's a good. We can always continue the conversation at a later time. I'm pretty sure we will, because I will anticipate your work coming down the road. I know you have a lot of interesting stuff in store for us, but I wanted you to give my audience like a minute or two to tell them where they can find you. Even though I'm going to put the information in the episode description, how can they get in touch with you in case they had a question or a comment? And we can't wait to have you back on the show at a later time, Tracy.
The easiest way to connect to my channel is the @ go on the Google, not Google, go on to YouTube and type in the @ Tracy Media 74. That's the easiest way to find me. My little webpage is gone now, so we're trying to get it back through our GoFundMe page. But I'm on the Tracy Show was on Tuesdays and Thursdays, although I didn't do a Thursday show this Thursday because I was very tired. So I'm going to pick the Thursday show back up. I'll do a live tomorrow and then go back to Tuesday and Thursday. Of course, most people know me from my Congratulations to Cornel West, the 47th President of the United States show. That always comes on at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturdays. Just looking for guests, especially those running for office. And just haven't had a lot of luck with that, which is why I kind of pivoted to what I'm doing now. But you can always contact me through there, or I'm not afraid to give out my email address. It's Tracy, TracyMediallc @gmail.com. You can always email me if you're interested in being on a show because I'm always looking for guests. If not, I'll have terrific topics such as superheroes I can beat up or terrible cereals. I will always come up with something. Just know that I will always come up with something. But thank you for letting me talk about my channel.
No problem. That's what we try to do here is amplify, each other. And I really want to replay this, and I know there's going to be a lot more we can discuss just based on this episode about organizing. It's just one of those things where if it was so easy, it would have already been done. It's obviously not an easy endeavor.
It's
This
not.
stuff that we're talking about is it. In many cases, it takes years to really become effective, and it's going to take just every effort we can get. It can't be superficial either. It has to be some kind of a tangible formula. That's something that's duplicable. It has to be duplicable because otherwise it's not going to work. Somebody has to be able to teach this formula to the other person, but it has to be something that's simple, but at the same time, something that's practical, something that's concise. And what that is, we're still discovering it. I think ego is a big issue with organization. That's what I've seen, at least in my experience with it. Just people not getting on the same page. People wanting to be the leader. People once the group grows, they are almost too content in the moment when that organization grows, and then you start to see the personality conflicts, and a lot of people just their ego, they can't put them aside. It's like, what is the actual goal? Like, what's the goal? Have we accomplished the goal? Are we going to accomplish the goal? That's what it should be about. But I guess when you add money into it, and when you add power and escalation, people just, their agendas change and their focus change.
I'll say
Unfortunately.
this. The Bible says that money is not the love, not money itself, but the love of money is the root of all evil. And Tracy will add that money reveals who you are. If you were an egomaniac before, money will just put it on blast. That's what it will do. And somehow we've got to get past that. You don't have to lead anything. I've always, anytime I start something, I'm like, who can lead this? Who can do this? I can't. Who can do this? Somehow I end up leading it, but I never go into it saying I have to lead it. Matter of fact, I'm like, hey, you take this or you do this. I'm pointing to you to do it. Um, but I would like to come back and talk about the march on January 25th, 2025, but not on this show because I didn't even get to it.
But sure, you can come back. You talking about March for Medicare for All?
No, the march during the presidential inauguration, it's January 2025. So
Oh,
there's a
wow. Okay.
movement to show up and remind some people what's at stake.
Okay. Absolutely. No, you have to definitely enlighten me on that.
But
And
you're already a part of the group, so you should already know this.
who, me?
You're on the We Will Fight Back. I just don't want to talk about it now because it's like 9 o'clock.
Okay. Okay. No, I'll definitely have to. There's just so much stuff that goes. You talking about on Facebook? It must be on Facebook.
It
I don't
is.
check Facebook that much. That's why I do the
Ah.
DM. And I honestly, I was supposed to have deactivated my Facebook by now, but I haven't done it yet because people have been a little bit more respectful this time around. But I feel like the disrespect is going to start ratcheting up a little bit this in the upcoming weeks, especially when we get close to November. And so I probably will
Yeah.
have to deactivate my Facebook then.
I'm not scared of them. Come, send
It's
me an
not
email.
about
I don't care.
it's
I'll
not about
fight
being
you in the
scared.
streets. I'll fight you in the park. I'll fight you. It doesn't matter. I don't care.
It's
I
not about
already
being
have
scared.
10 superheroes that I can beat up. You are not going to be a problem for me. I'm just saying.
It's not about. I just don't want to fight anymore about this stuff.
I do. Call me. I don't care. I literally don't care. I'm going to
Oh
sleep well at
gosh.
night voting for Dr. Cornel West. Oh, well. Bye and bye. I don't care what you say, how you say it, until they change the no. And they won't. And you can't believe nothing they say. Let me shut up. It's 9 o'clock. I'm going to stop right there.
Okay.
Although I do want to say that everybody, I do have 2, possibly 3 videos dropping tomorrow. I will be watching the debate and I'll be taping it in Zoom and then loading it up. I will watch the debate and give my reactions to it. Then, of course, at 7, I do my regular show, and I will have a very important announcement that you will not want to miss. Make sure you watch tomorrow at 7 p.m.
Okay. And this episode will release later on this evening. And I also
Oh,
recommend you to react. I want you, just as a request from me to you, I want you to at least look at that Breakfast Club interview. I think it's going to be very interesting.
I will definitely try to remember.
Absolutely. Beautiful people, enjoy the rest of your day. This was a memorable episode 135 with Tracy Carson, Tracy Media LLC. She has her YouTube channel that we're going to link in the episode description. Beautiful people, enjoy the rest of your day. And we would talk this upcoming week with a whole lineup of people. Cheers.
Thank you.